Chapter 10 The End of the Curse? Tyler! Emma exclaimed, with a sad expression as he ran out after Leah, and she was left standing in the middle of the room. She then felt everyone's resentful and judgmental gaze at her. She stiffened as she held her head down. Emma had never been at the receiving end of such negative attention before. Unable to take the disdainful gaze being thrown her way, she left the tavern and wandered the streets lost in thought. She lost everything in a blink of an eye. She has been regretting every decision she had made day by day. Since the night her father went missing. She sensed that something was wrong. When it was past the hour when her father should have been home, but thought nothing of it until the next day. Everything had gone smoothly until Leah reprimanded her in front of everyone. It wasn't the first time she had done so too. She managed to poke holes in her emotional speeches. The mayor once said to her that Emma has finally met her match in Leah. As he pointed out that Emma uses emotional words to move people. However, Leah can just use sound reasoning to make people change their mind, and Emma admitted to herself that she was inferior to Leah in this aspect. There weren't many wealthy families in West Eden, as the majority of the wealth in the town belongs to the Havens. Mayor Greed was filled with euphoria when the late Lord Haven died. As he was preparing to auction off the land surrounding the area, an unexpected letter arrived a month after the funeral. As it turned out, an attorney was assigned by both the late Lord and the municipality of Lords to track down the Lord's distant relatives as per custom. Which left the mayor baffled. As far as he knows, the Lord had no relatives to speak of. I can assure you no fraud has been committed here, Mr. Greed. They are indeed the late Lord's relatives. It took a while to find them, since they migrated to Wallachia. You know how it is. Siblings who can't inherit are often sent away to foreign lands. The attorney said with a smile. Emma remembered feeling uneasy at the sight of the man. He seemed very pleased with himself, as if he was about to be given a very generous reward. A few days later, Emma was endlessly wondering about. When she saw Tyler taking charge of the tavern along with a bouquet of red roses, she knew that it must be for Leah. Lost in thought until she got to the edge of town. When she caught Mrs. Gale going into the woods, she looked around and knew that the woman knew better than to go into the prohibited area. Although, she didn't want to be the wolf's next victim. She couldn't help but wonder why Mrs. Gale would go to such a dangerous area. Emma shadowed her from afar and followed her deeper into the woods. Emma tumbled as she followed her into a fog. As she wandered through, she began to see structures other than trees. Her eyes widened as she realized where she was. She only heard about it in stories, and thought that it was nothing more than tall tale made to scare the children from going into the woods. Her breathing grew heavier. She grew even more scared of what this could entail. She carefully looked around for a while, before she heard growling and hissing noises along with a woman's voice. Patience, Sandra. It will all be over soon. Tyler is a bit preoccupied right now, but rest assured he will bring Emma to you here. Emma's eyes widened while she covered her mouth as the beast growled at Mrs. Gale's words. Emma narrowed her eyes as she noticed the talisman Wendy was holding up in front of the beasts. She slowly stood up and ran away. One of her shoes slipped off her feet, then she fell and accidentally screamed. Wendy stood up quickly and went to go and check. Emma covered her mouth after she noticed what she'd done. She then tried to get up, as she looked up at the sky that was rapidly turning dark. Adrenaline pumped through her as she realized that the sun was setting behind the gray clouds. She got up frantically, but couldn't run due to her injured leg. Not far away, Wendy narrowed her eyes as she stared at Emma's shoe. Sandra, come. The beast then came to her as she picked up the shoe. Who do you think this belongs to? The beast growled. It's well made, but I don't think it's Leah's. Tyler's wooing her again today. Mrs. Haven, that woman doesn't step foot out of the castle unless it's really necessary. One of the ladies in waiting, perhaps. No, they had been terrified ever since you ate half of them. There's only one other person this could belong to. Let's go. The beast growled in response. Just as when the darkness began to fill the sky. While Emma was following, Wendy, Tyler and Leah sat alone in the tavern. Leah sighed, as her eyes glanced left and right at the empty tavern. The awkward atmosphere between her and Tyler seemed tense to her, although Tyler's smile seemed to disagree with her sentiment. As he gives her an infectious smile while she scowled at him. If you like this story so far, subscribe so we can reach 1,000 subscribers. Isn't it irresponsible of you to close the tavern for a whole afternoon, just so you can have a meal with me? She said scornfully. Not at all, my lady. I would have preferred if it was dinner, but we have to close before the sun goes down. Is it affecting your business that badly? Leah asked worryingly. No, some people come early for dinner now. I wish for a peaceful winter, too bad lions and wolves don't hibernate. She said as she sipped her drink. Since we're alone, I want to know what you call that thing. It's only proper. I'd told you a lot about my kind. Now it's your turn. It's a manticore. A creature made to fulfill a curse. Leah's eyes widened in shock, she then leaned into the table and whispered. Your people made that thing? It's been killing vamps and vampires for centuries. Why is that? Tyler answered with a whisper. Food, of course. She said slowly in anger. It kills whole villages like there's no tomorrow. Wait a minute, I'm confused, it kills your kind. Yes, you've seen how it nearly wiped out our vamps. She asked rhetorically with an angry face. Don't worry about it. It will go away as soon as it fulfills its objective. Tyler said reassuringly with a smile. She then asked doubtfully. How sure are you of that? Because they kill whole covens and villages back in ancient times. Are you sure that you know what its objective is? Tyler looked down with his eyes and said doubtfully. She only cursed the Greeds, I think. Leah looked at him dumbfounded by his statement. I wasn't there when they burned her, neither was my mother. Aunt Sandra was already burned and died from the flames. Before we could stop them. Leah narrowed her eyes and asked. How did they not find out that you're related? We're not related, my mother was just close to her, so I called her aunt. Tyler said with a smile. Tyler walked Leah home as the sun began to set. He closed the tavern and went home after cleaning up. Tyler, is your mother still at the tavern? The sun is already down. His father said angrily. He then gave a look of confusion. No, I just locked up. She wasn't there. I thought she was already home. The sheriff's eyes widened in horror. Stay here. I'll gather some men to help me find her. He said as he got his cape. But Dad, we're forbidden from leaving our homes at night, and we're even more forbidden from entering the woods. The sheriff ignored his son's words and went out the door. Tyler stood in a tranced state for a while, before running out the door and onto the edge of town. While the sheriff was knocking door to door to get some help. Emma is hiding from Wendy while holding a fallen tree branch close to her chest. Wendy sang her name melodically. Emma, I know you're there. I just want to talk. Don't you want to know why this is happening? Well, I'll tell you. 10 years ago, your father the good mayor had a clandestine affair with a beautiful girl 13 years, his junior. I don't know what their actual relationship was. But it doesn't matter because she ended up with child, and everyone wanted to know who the father was. But no secret can be hidden forever. One day his wife found out about it, and told her husband to either get rid of his woman and child, or face public scrutiny. You knew what he did, Emma? I'm sure you remember. Emma trembled from behind a tree while listening to Wendy as she held the fallen tree branch close to her chest as she breathed heavily. I know you can hear me, Emma. Very well, I'll tell you. He slandered her, and spread rumors that she was a witch. It's ironic, but he didn't know how true that statement really was. She said with a laugh. Anyway, after the witch's death, a sudden illness from an animal infected his wife, and they had to burn her body like that of a witch's trial to prevent it from spreading. However, the poor thing was too small to defend itself, so I had to lock it up. A witch's curse only grows stronger the longer it's left unfulfilled, so I had to let it go on the day of the harvest festival," she said as she walked closer. Then Emma jumped out in front of her and hit her head. Wendy laid on the ground. Emma saw her talisman to control the beast, ripped it off her neck and made a run for it. "No! Give that back!" Mrs. Gale yelled. She suddenly froze when she noticed the manticore staring right at her with its fangs out. "Sandra, you stay right there." She tried to command it, but it no longer listened as it bit off her head and dropped it immediately as it heard another prey that was running away. The beast then bolted towards the sound. When Emma heard the beast getting near, she started screaming for help. Tyler heard that and went to the direction of the scream. While they were running the forest, Leah was at the castle terrace playing for Arya with the moon as her backdrop. "Hey, what's that?" the girl asked when she noticed lights coming from the street. Leah stopped playing and turned around to see a group of men gathered at the town's edge. "When will this people learn? They're going to get killed out there. Stay here," Leah said as she left the room with long strides. "What are you waiting for?" the sheriff said as he stared back at the men who were understandably frightened. None of them were willing to speak until a voice rang out. "Sheriff, what's the meaning of this?" Mr. Haven said. He came fast with his horse and Leah on another. "Mr. Haven, my wife hasn't come home," he said pleadingly. "How about Tyler?" Leah asked, when she realized that he must have went into the woods to go looking for his mother. She gave the horse a nudge and went into the woods, shocking Mr. Haven and the others. "Leah, come back here," Mr. Haven shouted. In the woods, Tyler found Emma holding his mother's talisman. "What did you do to my mother, you bitch?" He pushed Emma to the ground as he tried to grab his mother's talisman. When the beast arrived and attacked them, Emma held out the talisman and the beast directed its attention to Tyler. Bird suddenly came down, attacking the beast, shocking Emma. "Tyler!" Leah yelled when a sudden wave of electricity suddenly hit her when she smelled the scent of Tyler's blood in the air. "Stay," she said to her horse as she climbed down and ran at high speed to where Tyler was, the scent of his blood leading her. She saw Emma holding up a talisman while Tyler was being mowed to the ground. In a blink of an eye, she took the talisman and snapped Emma's head off her shoulders. She held up the necklace in front of the beast before it could attack her. It growled at her and she hissed at it in return. "Leave now," she commanded, and after it did as she said, she turned her attention to Tyler, who was clinging to life. He was barely recognizable as bloody claw marks covered his entire body. "It's fine, you're going to be all right." "Okay, I'll grant you your wish," Leah said while shaking uncontrollably, and didn't notice that he was trying to tell her something. She bit her hand and took some of her blood and gave it to him mouth to mouth. The snow started to fall as his body began to heal slowly but surely. His eyes snapped open as his pupils turned red. Like, comment, and subscribe to be notified for updates on this series.